Hotel, everybody, BB for Hodier, African Liberation. I want to thank everybody for coming to the Motherhood class. This is what happens when you live in the West. Okay, so our daughter wasn't planned, and we're both in grad school, but I do have my Western plan. My focus is, of course, our daughter was well taken care of. In fact, we let her go to a preschool for a minute, and the teacher and it was part-time. The teacher was stuttering, and she came home trying to stutter. So that was only for a brief minute. But Baba and I, both in school, you know, so we literally did this. We divided the day in 12-hour shifts. So 12 hours of the day, I was responsible for. That gave him time to do his graduate work and vice versa. Now, but because I was not in my African mind, even though I knew, and I took for granted. Remember, my grandparents have 20 children. My aunt, one of them has 13 children, 6, 8, people have children. My mother had a small family of 4. So I took it for granted, you know, I need to do this, need to finish this degree, I'll have children later. Now, to Baba's credit, by the time our daughter was 4, and that would have been an ideal time, and I've recently heard in Nigeria, one of my friends who goes there regularly say they space the children at least 3 and 4 years apart. But anyway, that would have been ideal, but I hadn't finished my program, and when you don't get married the right way, I wasn't secure in the marriage. And I'm thinking, this is not looking good here. And remember, my mom was twice divorced. So really, I'm operating, well, because Baba's like, okay, it's now or never. And I'm like, okay, that might be never to myself. That might be never for you. However, you know, it's probably going to be husband number 2. And I'll do, you know, have a set of children later. But in the West, you know, sometimes delay ends up being, so you have one plan, but 20/20 hindsight, when you get into your African mind, once our daughter was born, the number one priority, she was our number one priority from the perspective of her being cared for and loved. But part of that should have been, she needed siblings. Now, I was not worried about that because there were 2 other black graduate families right on our floor, so she had playmates. So I'm not thinking, you know, but you're not, you know, when you're not thinking in your African, your thinking is confused. But needless to say, so we did not set out saying, oh, we want one child. In fact, I recommend that people, unless, you know, you've been given spiritual guidance that you shouldn't have more than one, that ideally children need siblings. And, you know, it's hard on that child. So even though our child, she's, you know, social butterfly. So whenever she's in school, so she's always, you know, playmates. However, those children go home and she comes home to the adults and there are no children there. And an additional problem to that is then, of course, mommy, you know, tries to be playmate, but then for a little child, then they, you know, they think of you as play. Now hold up, wait a minute, my sister, mommy plays with you, but I'm not really, you know, you have to put those, boundaries there. But definitely, so I am not happy with my story, but I think and I hope I share it with people to try to prevent other women from not following that mistake. Let me quickly go through some notes. My blessings of motherhood. If for any of my sisters out there who may question whether they want children, of course, you know, our beliefs, children are the Creator's reward, so that's a given. So to be blessed, and in a world where many women cannot have children, it is a reward to be a mother. And for our daughter in particular, it was her conception that literally brought Rudy and I to marriage, and it was a major factor in our staying married. And unlike in the West, you know, Mama, they say you shouldn't stay together for the children. I've come to believe, wait a minute, else. That's from the African tradition. You get together, bring families together to have children. Why not stay together for the children? And I really believe if you, and this is our story, if you, in our case, even though I believed in divorce, I think the ancestors allowed me to see my beautiful little baby girl frowning like a 29-year-old man, her father, and that scared me. And yes, because I'm like, oh, she has her father's spirit. I am not going to be able to, and I mean, this is for real. I'm not going to be able to raise her by myself because I'm not that strong, which her father is. And that's she needed us both, but she needed the discipline of her father. So that was a reason to stay together. So that's about 18 years. When you're there, hey, hang tough. You can have a 20th anniversary party celebration, and we did. And by that time, when they're grown and you see sometimes they're making their own decisions, and what you think and feel are very insignificant, the spouse that you question would you stay with is looking better all the time. He might be more reliable. I don't know if I'm going to be able to rely on her to be at my side through thick and thin. And then, then the grandchildren come, and Mama, how wonderful, yes, how wonderful that is. And of course, when they have that first grandchild, they present the grandchild to you, and they think they can we give you a child, and they feel they can do no wrong. No complaints whatsoever. We have given you a grandchild. Okay, but I mean, definitely, it's a reason to stay there. And then I'm definitely enjoying and even trying to take care of babies. Okay, I got diapers going and Baruti. So yes, he's still having to. Okay, yes, we got to do this together. And one of my favorite memories of our first grandchild, Baruti seeing the baby for the first time. And his back, he has back issues. His back is killing him. So he asked me for some Tylenol. So I'm thinking I'm going to hand him Tylenol and water, and just for a minute, because I already held the baby and all of that. So he's going to be over there, and I'm going to get the baby a second time, just for a minute. And no, he sits there, opens his mouth. I'm putting Tylenol in his. And he has Jalea against his chest, and that's one of my favorite memories of Baruti, and that's as grandparents, But anyway, so you get to enjoy grandparenthood together. But so definitely, she was a reason for our marriage, reason for us staying married. Through her, we needed an education for her, and we did not want her to be miseducated. Thus, in our search, we found an African-centered school in Chicago, a new concept. Her first school, and that introduced us to the African way. And through them, when we're about to move to Atlanta, so we know about CB, the Black Independent Schools, in their directory, we found there was an African-centered school in Atlanta. So when we moved to Atlanta already, there's an African-centered school for her. We found the African community village here. All of that resulting from this unplanned child, the blessings that come. And when you're trying to plan your life according to Western norms, missed a very important part of my story. Being raised by my mother and the women of black women of that time, I was taught you never have an abortion. And at this time, because I was born in 85, so black women are having abortions. But for me, that was not an option. It wasn't a thought, it was not an option. And it wouldn't have mattered what, if he didn't want to get married and you hear the stories of the man handing over money, that wasn't an option. Because what was an option, and one thing about old school black mothers, you can always come home. So I would have been able to come home, no problem, and my mother would have helped me as well as the rest of my family village. But one of the best things she taught me, so whereas some women have to deliberate, and if we listen to the Alice Walkers and all these black feminists, that's not it. That's not African. That's not us. we value life, and people went to great extents, you know, if they couldn't have children, in an effort to have children. So that was a major blessing. So even though I wasn't obedient in all matters, because if I had been obedient, I would have waited till I got married and I would have had all of that going on. Okay, but through the one child that we had, when we needed an African-centered high school for her, there wasn't one in our area, we decided to homeschool her, which turned into, it was not the plan, Ankabin Institute, 15 years ago. This child, while we're doing Ankabin Institute, Brother Baruti, when you're teaching, it can be difficult to have time to write. Brother Baruti writes, well, he had written a book on chess, but what's the second book? Excuses, yes, Excuses, but he writes that book, and from that point forward, the books have been flowing, so that now he has 19 books, and not to mention the videos and, you know, the work that is being done. All of that can trace back to this child that we did not abort, that we were not excited about, believe you me. But you know, you don't, and if she was indeed and is a reward, and now, you know, has given us so, and she embraces the notion of family and is raising the children, and we've been blessed through the additional community sons and daughters. So even though we only had one child, we have been very blessed that some of you sitting in the audience, we have these grown children, and we didn't have to go through pregnancy, labor, childbirth, and, you know, they bring us joy and they help us do our work. You know, just a beautiful thing.